Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Henches with Beyond the Chart. And in case you don't recognize it, the music we're playing in the background is a theme from Saving Private Ryan. Today is the 71st anniversary of D-Day, and I thought in that honor I'd play a little introductory music there. All right, this is the stock market technical analysis of the stock market day weekend edition. So we're going to look at the market the way we usually do, the indicators, key ETFs, market ETFs, and then 5 stocks today are semiconductors. We're going to look at Ambarella, Intel, Micron, NXP Semiconductors, and Sandisk. Okay. All right, let's get back. We're looking at the Dow here. The Dow was down 56 points on Friday, and a little bit of a 2-day downdraft that we've gotten. And, this trend continues. We're staying below the 10. The 10 is broken below the 21. We've now got, after the short-term trend is down, and with the short-term trend like this is my estimate on the wave count. I think we've got 5 minor waves up complete, intermediate wave 5 complete. I think we're in the we have a possibility of rolling over here, and I think we're breaking out of this this ending diagonal. Okay, let's pull this out a little bit. So we're going to need a little more confirmation. We're going to need, lows like here and here broken to really start to do it. Now, if this truly is breaking down out of this ending fifth wave and ending diagonal, it should do it fairly quickly. Okay, so that's what we'll be watching to see if it does. Now, if it stalls out and it pulls back up into here, then something else is probably going on. But right now, I'm going to stay with this wave count and stay with this the way this is. It's just because that's the way it's acting. I mean, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 days where we've closed below the 10-day exponential moving average. We haven't done anything like that since, well, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 days back here in December. And then, of course, if you go back to the October move down in here, I'm not even sure we had that many in a row back in here. But you can see how once the 10 broke below the 21 here and we got a bunch of the closes, it rolled over fairly sharply. So we'll see if that's the kind of move we get or not. But let's see. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. Not nearly the degree that the Dow is showing in terms of, but we are getting quite a few closes below the 10. The 10 did break below the 21, so we are getting that. Now, I mentioned this before. I mean, it's done it before. Did it back here in early May and didn't get any follow through. Okay. Now, we are breaking below this trend line also. So that's the one thing that's happened that seems to be consistent amongst all of these, is that we are breaking the lower trend line. Take a look at the NASDAQ. Now, I took away the ending diagonal just because it didn't look as good. It seemed like something else was developing here on the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ has a tendency to do its own thing. So we'll see whether or not this is breaking down. We got a couple of closes below the 10, but again, it's not downtrending nearly to the degree that the S&P and the Dow Industrials are. New York Composite, now this is a little more. Again, 2, 4, 6, 9 days closing below, and a little more dramatic break here in terms of the short-term trend down. And the Russell 2000, this is, again, like I talked about before, acting a little more like the NASDAQ. Now, I really thought when this broke down, remember I talked about this, the third was Wednesday, and I talked about in Wednesday night's video, I said if it doesn't hold above this point right here, then we could break down fairly quickly. And I drew this trend line and said, well, I'd like to see if it does that, there's a good chance it's going to break this trend line. Well, on Thursday, it broke down. It didn't hold up in here. And then, on Friday morning, boy, it started to break right through. And at one point, I thought, okay, here we go. And then this thing reversed right back on up. So we'll see whether this is a reversal means anything. Again, you can only determine whether it does based on follow through the next day or two. So we'll have to continue to watch that. Let's take a look at the weekly charts. Now, the Dow Industrials on a weekly basis have now gotten 2 weeks below the 10-week moving average in a row and a lower close. So a lot of times I'm looking for that from a negative standpoint, that we got a lower close, and you're showing that it's confirming this break of this trend line on this wedge with that the price action here of this last week. The S&P 500 on a weekly basis didn't close below that trend line, and we got 1 week below the 10 week moving average. Let's look at the indicators. Again, it's flat, not confirming this move. For the last few weeks. I talked about that last Saturday, I think, when I looked at a lot of the divergence. Let's go NASDAQ weekly. And again, this is just confirming what we're just seeing on the daily chart. So not a whole lot new, a little bit of a doji bar. And then I'm looking for the Russell 2000. There we go, Russell 2000 weekly. Okay, so that's, again, it's not a surprise. Let me look at the, we don't get volume on the Russell 2000. That's what I was hoping to see. And indicators really aren't telling us a whole lot, except you could almost draw a little trend line across the bottom of these 2 points right in here and see whether or not that trend line holds. And again, we're trading below this major trend line, which is the six-year trend line on the Russell 2000. All right, let's take a look at our indicators. Okay, short-term trading index not showing us a whole lot of anything. Again, this is just pushing sideways on the 10-day moving average 1.10. So we're right in the middle. Let's take a look at the VIX. Now this VIX is interesting. I did show this chart as it was developing on Friday when it was rallying up here. I really thought it was going to break this trend line and go. Showed this chart on StockTwits and tweeted it actually. So if you're not following me on Twitter, you might want to follow me on Twitter, because I will periodically put things out during the day and also talk about different things I'm seeing related to the trade ideas. It's at Joe Henches is the Twitter handle. So I really looked at this and said, well, are we putting in a major bottom here? I mean, it's like almost like a triple bottom. You can almost say a head and shoulders. Head and shoulders are a triple bottom. But it didn't break out on Friday, and it just reversed back down and closed on its low. So we'll see if that, what happens. Now, we did get a higher high and a higher low out of this. And, Thursday's action also, even though it was kind of a doji bar, same thing, pushing higher, and then we pushed higher on Friday. All right, let's look at the high-low. Okay, so 100 more new 52-week lows than 52-week highs for the day. So we break down here. We're down to the low point that we reached in March, which was 100 minus 102. So this is the second lowest reading of the year. Okay, so I think that's fairly significant. It shows the degree of breakdown. Maybe we're breaking down out of this congestion. Clearly, this direction was opposite of the way the market was trending since mid-March, and now it seems to be breaking. Now we'll see what kind of follow-through we get. All right, the next one is McClellan Oscillator. Well, I know where that is. That's right here on the New York Composite, and I go back and show this. Okay, so here's the zero line. Okay, here's oversold line below the minus 150, so we're not there yet, and so we'll see what kind of continuation we get, but we are not in oversold territory yet. And the put to call ratio on the let's see if I got it up here. Equity put to call ratio, let me pull it over. That's not good. Let me shrink it down. Okay, so the 10-day is 0.62. Okay, so this is the low reading I talked about on Wednesday, 0.51. That was the lowest reading that I'd had since, I showed those down arrows in the graph since March 30th, where we had 0.53. It was lower than that. And back 0.53 on February 20th. And then I think the next one was back into December, where we actually got below 0.5 into 0.49. Tied for second most bullish reading since June 19th. Okay, so that was the note I made on December 22nd. So here we are with this, but we still don't have a 10-day that's in the extreme readings yet. not like we did in June of last year. All right, that's it on the indicators. Let's take a look at our key ETFs. Look at the high yield bond fund, HYG. Okay, so here we are with HYG breaking down. Look at this dramatic move. I talked about this. This was Wednesday the 3rd. So we had 2 days, and then we just got continuation. So that's continuing to show risk off in terms of the market. And it is breaking down below this March low. Okay, and so, if the market complies, to break down below the March low means you got to get down below here. Okay. And that's several hundred points below on the Dow. Let's look at the S&P 500, and quite a ways down here. I mean, look at the March low. Excuse me. Boy, I had to get a little glass of water there. Sorry. All right, so here the March low is closing 2040, and we closed Friday at 2092. So that's a pretty good little dent in the S&P 500 down. If that's what this is telling us, and we'll see. It doesn't look very positive in terms of the picture it's painting. All right, the next one is the TLT, the 20-year Treasury bond. There we go. All right, so this looks to me like we're working, some kind of 5-wave countdown. I'm calling this 1, a flat correction 2. It looks like we had we're working a 5-wave down here, and I'm not sure it's complete yet. In a wave 3. So we'll see if that continues to play out, but the trend continues to go to the downside on TLT. And the next one is the dollar. And there we go, US dollar index. Okay, so the dollar, I'm continuing to call this as intermediate wave 4. Okay. And when you look at this, so yeah, we had a little first move here, almost like minor wave 1. Now we're getting like minor wave 2. Let me go ahead and put that in there. That's what I think is unfolding. In this, we're talking about 5 waves up in intermediate wave 5. Okay, and right now I've got a target of an intermediate wave 5 is right up here. So I'm continuing to think that the dollar is going to rally for one last move in here. So we'll see if that happens or not. Short-term trend is continuing to the high side. And we got the 10 above the 21. All right, the next one is oil, U.S. oil. Well, I can find this fairly quickly. Here we go, and then gold's right underneath it. That's good. All right, so this continued. This dropped down like I was expecting. We had a little extra day in here. Remember back here, I was comparing it to this when the 10 broke below the 21, and we just got a couple of days. Well, we got one extra day thrown in, and then it rallies down. The market never does anything exactly the same. Now, we did get kind of a bullish reversal type action on Friday, almost coming right off the 55-day moving average here. So we'll see if the dollar continues to rally. I'm going to expect this to continue to come down. And the last thing is gold. And GLD. All right, gold really sold off here the last couple of days, and really this week. This was Monday, so here was last Friday. So, big intraday rally, and it comes back down, closes down for the day, slight bump up on Tuesday, and then we sell off. So now we've broken below this low. We've broken this trend line pretty dramatically. Here's my alternate count on this, okay? And I've talked about this before. My alternate count is that intermediate wave 5 down is not done. Okay, now, and won't get that confirmed really until this low is taken out. But the alternate count would say that this move, this 5-wave move, is minor wave 1, and this 3-wave move is minor wave 2 up, and this is all of the 5th intermediate wave. And then you'd have the first minute wave down of 3, the second one back up here of 3, and we'd be working minute wave 3 of 3 down. So that's the alternate count. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, let's take a look at semiconductors. Semiconductors ETF. Okay, so semiconductors kind of pulled back to this trend line. It didn't hold above this previous high. pretty good little sell-off, a couple, 3 closes down below the 10. We're not getting any divergence on this top move in here. So we'll see whether or not, I mean, you don't always have, it doesn't always have to have divergence to roll over. I always look for it, but it doesn't have to be there for this to roll over. So right now, pretty good little 5-day sell-off on the semiconductors. And the next one is the home builders. See if I can find that fairly quickly. Here we go. And the home builders, again, breaking of this trend line, this minor trend line breaking. You can see it just looks like it's kind of chopping sideways. And then I put another trend line in right in here to see if it comes down and breaks that. And then that would be a sign that this is kind of topping and rolling over. And, so that's the look I'm seeing, really sideways since this move here on February 24th. So the last 3 months of price action, and kind of like what the market's been doing, really. And the next one is the financials, XLF. Here we go, the financials. And again, same type of thing. Since the high made back here in late December, it really, pulled down, hasn't taken out that high, rallied back up to it in mid-May. And then here we are with this trend line. And it just seems to be like squeezing on out. So the real challenge is going to be, do we break down through that trend line, or do we break up through that high? And we're just going to have to let it tell us what it wants to do. It's hard to tell right now. And the next one is biotechnology, NASDAQ biotechnology. And this one had a little bit of a bullish reversal type day on Friday also, and pulled right back up to this previous highs, where this trend line is, because this previous high, 368.25, high 367.84, high 367.37, and high on Friday 367.71. So we're just right in there, 367, 368. And here's the close. This was probably one of the higher closes right back in here, but basically you can just see, this is what it's been doing since here. Again, just like everything else, mid-March to late February to mid-March in terms of where these things have peaked out, and then just pushed sideways. Now, we're not getting any closes below the 10, so this hasn't rolled over yet, and it's continuing to have the 10 above the 21, above the 55, above the 233. So it's continuing to act like it wants to kind of push higher. And the last one we'll take a look at is the energy select sector. And again, this looks like, I've talked about this before, possible just big basing, and this is in a pretty solid short-term trend down. Now, yeah, oil, just like oil, this kind of made a move on Friday, but then it sold back off. You can see how it closed about halfway up, maybe a little bit more than halfway. So don't know that that's really bullish. It's not anything you can bet on. I mean, the trend is pretty solid to the downside right now, at least on the short term. And the 21 just broke below the 55. So that's how energy looks. All right, let's take a look at our semiconductors. Start off with Ambarella. And this stock has been on fire. Okay, let's look at this from all of its trading. So this is all the trading I've got. Hopefully I've got everything in here. Now, when you look at this wave count, sometimes you kind of sit back and go, well, wow, look at wave 3, it looks kind of short, wave 1. But really, when you look at it, this is all on semiconductor. Semiconductor. It is a semiconductor stock. It's related to video and video-related type semiconductors, which is just really hot market right now. If I take the semi-log off, then you can see this on a regular just arithmetic scale. And it's a little clearer to me that this looks like pretty solid wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, a flat wave 4, and we're working a wave 5. Now these lines curved because these are semi-log trend lines. Okay, that's why when I convert it to arithmetic, it changes it. So if I take that back to semi-log, those lines will go back to being straight. So what I've got here is I'm connecting the second and fourth corrective waves, making a parallel line off the top of 3 and projecting out potential top of 5. Now, I don't think that's going to work. If I've got the wave count right, we're already pushing above that channel, which sometimes it does happen. But this is getting pretty long in the tooth here in terms of this move. We could be getting close to the end of wave 3. I mean, we might have 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we might be at the top of wave 3 as it is. So I'd be watching this pretty carefully to see if we may get, this was kind of a shallow, we may get a little pullback corrective in here. Now it should not overlap 1, definitely should not come back down and come over the top of 1. So what I would be expecting is a little pullback and then one more move up, and then that's going to be it, because we're looking for 5 waves in the 5th primary wave up. So I think we're in the final leg up. And when you look back at let's go back to the arithmetic scale, you look how it's starting to go straight up. Okay, well, stocks do that. They don't do that very long. I mean, eventually you're either going to correct sideways for quite a while, or you're going to pull back pretty sharply. So that's why I'm talking about what I'm talking about in terms of the move. What I think to be watching out for next on Ambarella. Okay, now let's get into the next one. Is Intel. I had one of my subscribers had a little request for Intel, was looking at it, and I think the comment that he made was, hey, we've had 5 strong days down, is this going to rally? Well, it could very easily rally. Here's my concern. You've broken this trend line here. You've got the short term starting to break down again, and because this has been down for 5 days in a row, there is no guarantee that this thing won't be down for 7 or 9 days in a row. I mean, if you look back at history, I mean, 4 days many times, okay, wow, you got a 1 day rally, and then it continues to drop. I mean, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, little 1 day rally, and then it drops, and then, yeah, you can go sideways in here. So it's really a matter of what your time horizon is for playing it, and what's your risk tolerance, and where you're willing to put a stop, and those types of things. But, and I've seen when you go back and look at other times when this gets into sell mode, I mean, it could go on for over 5 days, very easily. I mean, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row down, one little blip, and then, 8, 9. So, that's my point. The other thing I noticed about Intel, which is kind of interesting, I drew this line here. This looks like a neckline. This looks like a head and shoulders pattern to me. Okay. This looks like a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. So that's what I'd be watching for. Yeah, we may get a little pullback and reaction, but then I'll be watching to see, do we get continuation on this move or not. And let me go back to my mouse, and we shrink out of this. You can see we've had, a move to top from. I mean, here's the move from the March 2009 low. Yeah, we've had a nice big move, and to have it put in a little bit of a top here wouldn't be totally unexpected that it might do that. All right, let's take a look at Micron Technology. MU, here we go, Micron. All right, this one has been, it's been sell-off mode. More sideways. This is more topping like Intel. I mean, you could tell the difference. Not all semiconductors are acting alike. You saw Ambarella and how strong that was because of the niche it's in. And then these two, Intel and Micron. Micron almost looks like it's topping out to a degree too. I mean, you could almost make the case, although I was going to say maybe a descending type triangle, but the lower part of the triangle is a little bit slanting down. But the bottom line is, right now it's trending down. Okay, now we didn't get a lower low here, so that's going to be the interesting test, I think, here on Micron. And then look at this 233-day moving average. Okay, look how it's rounding over, and you got the 55. So the long-term trend is down. The intermediate trend's down. The short-term trend is about to go down if it continues doing this. But look how it's rounding over, and so we'll have to continue to watch this. But that's why I've got this little trend line to see if it keeps coming down. Now it's been down 1, 2, 3, 5 days in a row. Well, again, just like the SMH, the ETF, which is reflecting all the action in the semiconductors. NXP Semiconductors. There we go. Okay, now this is acting a little more like Ambarella and continuing to push high. I think we may have 5 minor waves up in the 5th intermediate wave in this move. Okay, so that's why I'm a little cautious here. Let's see if I didn't look for divergence. We've got some divergence between this high here and this high here on the RSI. We definitely have it on the demand index. And we definitely have it on the blue line, which is the DI plus. So we are getting some broad divergence between this point and this point on here, confirming that this might be a top, and then it's breaking down below the, we've got 3 closes below the 10-day exponential. We'll see whether it continues to roll over or not. And you could say that, let's take a look at, it's right at the trend line. Okay, so it's right at it. So we'll see whether that trend line holds or it breaks. All right, the last one we're going to take a look at tonight is Sandisk. It always knows where I want to go. I'm not sure how it does that. Okay, Sandisk is definitely in a downtrend. It's been a downtrend. This is one I think got stopped out on, and I don't remember exactly what day it was. It's all starting to blur together. But this thing is just done nothing but go sideways. You know, when it broke this trend line here, I really thought it was going to roll over. It didn't, and it just kept doing that, going sideways. And I don't have Bollinger Bands on here, but I did look at this with Bollinger Bands, and it got really, really super tight, and then it looked like it was starting to bounce off the bands. And sometimes when it starts doing that, you never quite know where it's going to go. And so far, it's not really doing a whole heck of a lot of anything. Let me zoom back out of this a little bit. I mean, you could see it's corrected quite a bit already. Now, this is kind of a funky looking 5th wave because it looks like it's short. I think this is a truncated 5th wave. There looked like there was a solid 5 waves up in here, and it just truncated and ended up short. And sometimes the 5th wave will do that. And because we look like we had a solid A, B, C zigzag 4th corrective wave here, and then of course you break the trend line between the 2 corrective waves. Oh, that's not good. I just didn't realize I had that. Let me get rid of this. This is on arithmetic scale. Let me turn this to this and take a look at it. Okay, so there you can see the trend line here pretty clearly that's breaking down. I mean, there could be some kind of consolidated, some kind of triangular type action that's going on in here, signaling. So we could have something like this, and you could have then, you know, if you take something like this, or you could even, you know, make the case almost more like, I'll tell you what, let me get rid of that, and we're going to be done with this. This more like right in here, and then I would darken those lines, and that's going to be maybe a little more of the consolidation type activity that's going on. So it just looks a little funky because you're not incorporating this point in here, kind of like the low point that you did here. So this is more like a flag, and this is just more some kind of triangular consolidation going on. So we'll see what happens. Now, the one thing I am seeing, if we go to let me go to a weekly chart of this, and there we go, and we're looking for Sandisk, which is Sandisk weekly. Now, the one thing I noticed on this weekly chart is this move down, this whole move here, which occurred, you know, on March 27th, and then it's gone sideways since then, is getting bullish divergence. Okay, you know, so on the demand index, on DI minus, okay, here, and on RSI. All right, the RSI did not go lower. So we're getting bullish divergence in here, not confirming this move down. The only thing is sometimes you know, you need the price action to turn up and tell you that it's going to do something different, which is why I'm a little suspicious of, come on, there we go. I'm a little suspicious of what is going on right here. And that's why I like to see usually this low point incorporated in some kind of flag or pennant type of action. I'm not seeing that, so I'm kind of suspicious that something else is going on. We'll see. Anyway, I mean, you know, the true test on this thing is going to break out. It breaks out between this trend line, or it breaks out here, and you know, of course, it's got this huge gap that it could easily fill if it gets above that. It didn't go very much further here, though. All right, that's enough for today. Long video. So weekend edition, we kind of have a tendency to go that way. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll make sure I have the timeline out so you know where everything is on the video. All right, this is Joe for Beyond the Chart. Everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next video.